this is a huge change that he's saying, Pfizer, this is an ultimatum. You better show me that you are true to your word. I think Kennedy and Trump have a strong relationship, and Kennedy's been telling him, I'm sure, for a year, Donald, there are problems. The COVID measures were bad. They lied to you, Mr. President. And I think that Trump is now willing to look at that.
Come see me on tour in Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, Irvine. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Ladies and gentlemen, fan favorite here at the show, Mary Holland is back. She's an author, speaker, and CEO of Children's Health Defense, an organization focused on legal strategies to defend children's health and obtain justice for those injured. Before joining Children's Health Defense in 2019, she taught at NYU School of Law for 17 years and lectured at Columbia Law School on international human rights advocacy. Please welcome back to the show, Mary Holland. Hey, Mary.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Great to be here. Great to see you. What did I say?
You said great to be here. It was funny.
All right.
I got dazzled by her jacket.
There you go.
It's very nice. Her jacket looks very nice. It's got that, I don't know, what color would you call that? It's a plum? Yeah. I'll call it plum. Nice. Mary, there's plenty of things to talk about today. The first thing I want to talk to you about is this. Donald Trump tweeted out, it is very important that the drug companies justify the success of their various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree with the CDC being ripped apart over this question. I want the answer, and I want it now. I have been shown information from Pfizer and others that is extraordinary, but they never seem to show those results to the public. Why not? They go off on the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and CDC, trying to figure out the success or failure of the drug company's COVID work. They show me great numbers and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. I want them to show them now to the CDC and the public and clear up the mess one way or another. I hope Operation Warp Speed was as brilliant as many say it was. If not, we all want to know about it and why. So,
scoot over.
That is kind of, Operation Warp Speed, anything that goes faster than the speed of science has to be brilliant, but here we are. So let me just show you what RFK has said about the COVID vaccine before. Here's what he has said, and Pfizer specifically.
We've never seen these kind of adverse reactions. They were predictable because if you look at the clinical trial data, even though they lied on the clinical trial data, Pfizer lied. We know that. There's no doubt about it. Maddie Dore is a good example. She was one of 1,100 children in the 11 to 15-year-old trial. So they're going to give this to 76 million children based on these tiny trials. And so any signal that you see in those trials, you have to assume is going to reverberate. You can extrapolate to the much larger group. Maddie Dore got a fever immediately after her vaccine, and she later gets seizures, and now she's in a wheelchair, apparently for life, and she's on a feeding tube. That's a fate worse than death, and it's to a cohort that has zero risk from dying of COVID. And if they give this to 76 million kids, they can expect that an injury like that will occur in 1 in every 1,100 kids. It's not guaranteed, but that's what Pfizer, when you do the clinical trial, that is how it works. You extrapolate any injury to the population as a whole. So that's 70,000 kids or something like that who could be injured in that terrible way. Kids who are at zero risk from COVID. Plus, the heart attacks we're seeing, the strokes we're seeing, the death rates from this vaccine there's been more deaths in 8 months than in all the billions of vaccines combined over the last 30 years. From this one vaccine, 17,000 recorded deaths in the United States, and we know the death rate's much, much higher than that. Probably 40 times. The best math, the best studies are showing that it's 40 times that. So, the risks from the vaccine they're completely untenable. If people knew the truth, they would not be taking this vaccine. And then the benefits of the vaccine are apparently zero or even sub-zero after 6 months. The British data is showing that the people who are vaccinated are actually more likely in many age categories to get COVID than people who are unvaccinated, which, by the way, was predicted. Now, we know that Pfizer knew this was going to happen because in their clinical trial, in the 6-month clinical trial, it was only 6 months, At the end of that period, 20 people died in the vaccine group and only 14 in the placebo group of all-cause mortality. There were 5 heart attacks in the vaccine group and only 1 in the placebo group. So your chance of dying of a heart attack from that vaccine, according to their own studies, is 500% greater than if you're unvaccinated. So they knew we were going to kill a lot of people, and they did it anyway. And people need to be able to see those studies and understand the deception, this criminal deception that has been imposed upon them.
So, Mary, what do you make of Donald Trump's about face and seeming unease about his biggest accomplishment that he's been touting up until 5 minutes ago, Operation Warp Speed and the COVID vax?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. It's something that I worried about a lot when Bobby Kennedy was coming into this office, because Bobby has written several books about how devastating all the COVID measures were. And we knew that up until that tweet that you just showed us, President Trump has stood behind Operation Warp Speed without question. So this is a huge change that he's saying, Pfizer, this is an ultimatum. You better show me that you are true to your word. What Bobby Kennedy didn't say in that clip you just showed, Jimmy, is that not only did Maddie Dore get horrifically injured, but Pfizer said she got a stomachache. Pfizer didn't put in the clinical trials that she was devastated. They put in that, there was this little minor thing that happened, and they've stood by that lie. There has been a gap between Secretary Kennedy and the president, and that gap would appear to be closing. You probably have seen that Pfizer sort of responded on social media to the Trump tweet saying, oh yeah, we pulled all these studies together and they're there for you to see. Well, that's not going to be sufficient. And, Naomi Wolf at Daily Clout with the War Room put together the Pfizer papers where they had doctors and scientists look at all of the clinical trial data. As Bobby says, even the initial clinical trials were devastating. Then in the first 3 months, they had over 1,000 reported deaths to Pfizer. So this is not over. And I think that there's tremendous pushback against Bobby Kennedy right now, but there has to be a COVID reckoning before we will be in the clear. And that has not happened at all yet. You probably know also Bobby Kennedy just published an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, and he talks about some of the irrational COVID policies, including, masks on toddlers and 6 feet distancing and boosters for healthy kids and school closing and lockdowns and suppression of effective therapeutics. COVID was a devastation in public health, and yet the CDC and the mainstream media and probably some of the people in the Senate at the hearing tomorrow are going to be trying to tell people that it was a great success. But I don't think the American people are going to buy that any longer, Jimmy. I think that day's over.
Well, you mentioned Naomi Wolf. Here she is with Del Bigtree, and here's what she has to say.
Pfizer knew within 3 months that 1,225 people died. That's how many deaths there are in just 3 months of rollout.
1,225 within 3 months.
Correct. Pfizer knew by April of 2021 that minors' hearts were being damaged by the injection. They had warnings from the Israeli Health Ministry and also from a pediatric group. And rather than coming forward and telling all of us this is going to damage the hearts of minors, our lawyers FOIA'd email chains that go up to Dr. Fauci, Dr. Walensky, POTUS, and 15 White House officials.
In the email, you see it going all. So the president can't say.
The template goes to POTUS.
Right, okay.
It's a little deniability there, but the template goes to POTUS. But certainly there are 15 White House staffers on the email chain, right?
Being told, hello, we have a problem here.
Worse. They were told that, but then there was this freak out, and I recognize it from having been an advisor to a presidential campaign, a freak out conference where they're planning how to lie to the American people, and they're creating a script. The script is 17 pages, completely redacted. But you remember what happened in April and May of 2021. They came forward and said, pericarditis, myocarditis in young men and teenagers, it's transient, it's mild, it's rare. That they knew that they were lying. And
that's what they came out with. That was their approach. Like, we'll kind of admit it, but we'll just say it's really nothing to worry about.
And then they followed that with an all summer long propaganda campaign using influencers and TikTok personalities to get young people and teenagers to get injected.
So so now everybody now knows that Pfizer's lying. They lied. They hid data. They wanted to hide the data for 75 years. You remember that? That was through the FDA. It was like, oh, we're not going to release that because we don't have the manpower to get out the clinical trial data. They were going to try to hide it for 75 years until a judge overruled them. So why do you think, I know it's speculation, but what do you think changed with Donald Trump?
I think that's an interesting question. I don't think we really know, other than clearly this is coming to a head. I think the Pfizers of the world are trying to get rid of his secretary. I think Kennedy and Trump have a strong relationship, and Kennedy's been telling him, I'm sure, for a year, Donald, there are problems. The COVID measures were bad. They lied to you, Mr. President. And I think that Trump is now willing to look at that, and I'm really grateful. I think a lot is going to come out in the open at this point that has been taking place probably behind the scenes.
So, what do you expect that's going to come out in the open?
Well, what I expect to come out in the open is Pfizer's lies. I think, it's one thing for Daily Cloud and War Room and Children's Health Defense to talk about Pfizer's life. Is a totally different thing to have Bobby Kennedy as Secretary of Health and Human Services say, Pfizer, you lied to the president, you lied to the NIH, you lied to the American people, and we're not going to take that lying down. What exactly is going to happen? I'm not certain, Jimmy. I mean, I think this opens the door potentially, depending on what happens next, to HHS suggesting that Pfizer should be prosecuted. Under the PrEP Act, there is a provision for willful misconduct. If, in fact, it is very clear to the American public and based on documents that Pfizer knew these shots were going to be ineffective and deadly and injurious, and they went ahead anyway, isn't that willful misconduct? I believe it is. And they weren't alone. Obviously, there were people in the government that were collaborating with Pfizer. So, and it's not just Pfizer, it's also Moderna. Moderna was a joint venture with NIAID. So this all goes very deep. That's what Kennedy is really up against right now, is these entrenched forces and these extraordinary conflicts of interest.
And so the PrEP Act, it's shielded the vaccine manufacturers from liability. But if you commit fraud, then your shield of immunity from lawsuits or prosecution goes away. Correct?
Not exactly. That you're thinking of the 86 Act, the PrEP Act of 2005, Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act is an incredibly unconstitutional statute that Congress passed. It's absolutely unconstitutional, and it has incredibly limited ability to bring any kind of claim. But the claim that you can bring to a federal district court with 3 judges in Washington, D.C. is for willful misconduct if Health and Human Services or Department of Justice sort of bless that claim. And Health and Human Services here might be in a position to help initiate that. And then you have to prove it by clear and convincing evidence. But I think there's market forces at play too, Jimmy. There's a lot of different things that could happen. FDA could take away the license of some of their products. There's a lot of different ramifications that could happen. But I think that it starts with there emerging a much bigger formal consensus. Pfizer did things that were arguably criminal.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was criminal. I was misled. She was, Naomi Wolf was talking about April of 2021. They knew these signals of adverse events had been showing up. And that's coincidentally exactly when I got my vaccine injury. And so they lied about that the vaccine would stay in your arm. It goes through your whole body. So that was lie number one. And then it also gave me nerve damage, which is a common adverse event. You get nerve damage, which I have. I had an occipital neuralgia, and who knows how much spike protein is still in me, because on the spike protein has been, even Yale did a study where it said it stays in your body for, I think, over 2 years, up to 700 days. So I do you really expect to see some kind of criminal prosecution over this?
No, I can't tell you for sure that there's going to be a criminal prosecution, but I do believe that we will not be safe from the next pandemic or the next emergency that shuts down the world until there's been some kind of serious, deep truth-telling and reckoning about what went down in COVID. And that tweet from the president was the first signal that I've seen in his presidency where he was suggesting that's possible. And that gives me some hope that he's standing with Secretary Kennedy, who's facing an onslaught right now. And he said he's going to come out with where autism is coming from in September. So there's long knives, and the firings at CDC also brought out long knives for Bobby Kennedy. Trump is essentially signaling, I am standing by Bobby Kennedy, and I'm looking at you, Pfizer, and presumably Moderna and others, to see if you were really telling the truth during COVID. I think we also know Senator Paul is eager to get Tony Fauci before the Senate under oath. I think we haven't yet seen what we need to see in terms of some kind of truth-telling and reckoning about what happened in COVID, where the Constitution was shredded, Jimmy.
I'll be honest, I'm surprised that Donald Trump didn't fire RFK already. I thought that was what was going to happen, seeing that he's taken so much Big Pharma money and he seems to bend the knee to his donors at every turn. But here he is doing the opposite. It seemingly is a great sign that he's standing up, because, I mean, I think Big Pharma gave him like $100 million for his first inauguration. Yeah. So
in the first administration, you'll remember that he had tapped Bobby Kennedy in November of 2016 to create a vaccine safety commission. And then, the phone lines and emails went cold. And he did take money for his inaugural party. This is different, right? We're in 2025. They found a meeting of the minds. I am certain that Bobby Kennedy was honest with the president about his views of what happened during COVID.
I have no doubt that Donald Trump was lied to, not only by Pfizer, but we know Dr. Fauci is a big liar, and Francis Collins and Walensky, all the people, the heads of the FDA, the CDC, the NIAID, they were all lying, not only to the public, they were lying to the public, which they were. They were saying that the vaccine stopped transmission and contraction. They were saying it had 100% efficacy. They were saying that 100%.
They did. They said 100%, based on totally bogus numbers. You're absolutely right. I do think that the president has an out that President Biden doesn't have. And that is all these people really did conspire to lie to him. Remember, he was talking about hydroxychloroquine. He was saying, I don't support mandates. He was trying to get this, rushed out, and he was listening to his advisors. They did lie to him. And I think he has that out to say, I was grossly misled. I think potentially that's available to him in a way that is absolutely not available to the last administration.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm getting older. Yes. And I'm even starting to lose my hair, which you probably can't tell because I'm wearing pants. But the point is, we have a new thing to help you aging. It's introducing Qualia Senolytic, the first of its kind formula designed to help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells. This is a big deal. They've been working on this forever. Senolytics are a science field revolutionizing human aging. A big culprit behind that middle-aged feeling can be senescent cells, also known as zombie cells, that linger in your body after their useful function, wasting your energy and resources. The accumulation of zombie cells can lead to less energy, slower workout recovery, joint discomfort, and basically just feeling old. Well, here's how it works. You take it just 2 days a month, helping your body naturally eliminate zombie cells to age better at the cellular level. You experience the science of feeling younger. So if you want to experience the science of feeling younger, go to quallife.com/Dore for up to 50% off your purchase and use code Dore for an additional 15% up. That's QUALIALIFE.com/Dore for an extra 15% off your purchase. Your older self will thank you. And thanks to Qualia for sponsoring this episode. Come see me on tour in Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Louisville, Fort Wayne, Hermosa Beach, Sacramento, San Francisco, Irvine. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.